Okay, greetings everyone. Hello. I'm talking to you from Vietnam right now, and specifically Da Nang, Vietnam. I don't know if you know much about Vietnam or if you've ever been over here, but Da Nang is in the kind of middle part of the country on the coast, and so I wish you could see it. Out that window on the 17th floor, I'm looking out on the ocean, and it's one of the most incredible beaches I've ever seen. So it's a pretty special time for me. I won't get into it too much. If you're interested in the why of this journey, I have a YouTube video on my YouTube page, and I have a link to my YouTube page at the top of our class page. But it's kind of a research opportunity, and it's an opportunity for me to kind of go recharge my batteries and kind of get out of the rut that I feel like I've been in, and many of us maybe have been in for the last few years. And so I'm having a great time over here, and I'm actually recording this video like an hour before I need to head to the airport to gather my wife, who is coming to see me. I've been over here for a little over a month, and she is coming to stay with me for about a week. And so I'm very excited. We're going to have a great time. But I wanted to get this video recorded before she shows up so that I'm ready to go for when the class starts, because the class starts on July the 11th and she leaves on July the 13th, and my birthday is July the 12th. So it's going to be a hectic couple of last few days of our time together. We're going to be bouncing around, traveling, and it's my birthday, and then we're both heading to the airport on the 13th. She heads back home, and I head up to Hanoi for the last few weeks of my, or not even 2 weeks, about 10 days or so of my summer, and then I'm heading back to Las Vegas. So there's going to be a little bit of a overlap between when this class kicks in and me being here and then coming home. I'm coming home on the 23rd. All right, so what is that? About 10 days into this class session. However, I have taught this class at a distance many times. It doesn't need to be taught from Las Vegas. It doesn't need to be taught in anywhere in particular, um, except if anyone wanted to come chat with me in person, which rarely actually happens. So I have taught this class from France before. I've taught it from Missouri. I just happen to be in Vietnam right now, but I created the full class before I left for my trip. Um, no, I did it. I did it actually in Saigon. Time's a blur. Anyway, so the class is ready to go. It's all the content is there and everything's been laid out. The syllabus is up on Canvas, and the last thing I need to do is to record this video. So this is what I'm doing, and it should be only about 10 or 15 minutes of chatting things through, and then we're off and running. So I don't have a printed copy of my syllabus. I have our syllabus on my phone, and I have our textbook, the Herrick book, right here. And I'm just going to take a few moments to talk about Communication Studies 409, the rhetorical tradition. First of all, my name is Donovan Conley, and I'm the instructor for this class, and I have been teaching this class or a version of it for many years, actually. I am now, this is weird to say, I am the senior most member of our Department of Communication Studies. I've been here for quite a while. I got here in 2004, and at that time I was teaching a different version of this class. It was called 211, the rhetorical tradition, I think, but it was sort of a slightly less advanced version. But it's a class that is quite important for rhetoric in terms of this whole massive field, this discipline that goes way back to Plato and Aristotle and the sophists, and it has been written about, just endlessly in the Western world. And so there's an actual mountain of material that we could be considering, and it's a tough challenge to try to slice a somewhat coherent narrative about this tradition in the span of what, 5 weeks. So this is my attempt to do that. I'm using the Herrick book. I've used this off and on, mostly for this class. I used to use a different version, but this one seems to work pretty well. So that's all you need for this class is that book. And there's lots of supplemental stuff on the Canvas page that you'll see. Let me back up a second here. So my name is Donovan Conley. Been teaching this class for a long time. I study rhetoric, obviously. I study sort of cultural forms of rhetoric. I'm really interested in sort of the culture of publicness and democratic publicness. And it's become very difficult to do that job over the last few years because things have just gotten really messy. So this class actually matters more probably than it ever has. I'd like to think that the ship hasn't completely sailed in terms of our democracy, in terms of this question of publicness, in terms of citizens coming together and kind of working together cooperatively, using the resources of appeal and persuasion and argumentation, which is really what this class is all about. It goes all the way back to the beginnings of democracy in the West. So the flourishing of democracy in Athens in the 5th century BC happened at the same time as rhetoric happened. And that's no coincidence, right? These things came together or came to life at the same time because they kind of require each other. And here we are now in the American experiment of democracy, and things are looking very precarious. And I feel like, we could all benefit from reminding ourselves of our ancient roots in terms of thinking about citizenship and thinking about appeals and reason and unreason and the resources of the powerful resources of being able to move fellow citizens. It's all been thought about. Now we have a very new kind of technological sort of thing that we need to kind of deal with. But I think even this old stuff still kind of applies in useful ways for thinking about those questions. So my office is in the Greenspun building in the communication studies 4th floor in that wing. But as I mentioned at the beginning, I won't be around until I get, like I said, I fly home on the 23rd. I think that's a Saturday. So that next week I should be around. Hopefully the jet lag won't be too bad. Like I said, I don't usually get a lot of students wanting to actually meet face to face in this class. It seems like the remote setup seems to work pretty well for most people. Nevertheless, I still always encourage uh, in-person conversations. This class moves quickly. There's a lot of information. It comes at you in a hurry. It can be challenging. Some of the language is weird. It's ancient. It's old. It doesn't make a ton of sense. I get it. Trust me. And I'm here. I won't be I won't be there for a little bit, but I will be. And even before I get home physically, we can still set up times. I have figured out that um, around 8 in the morning for me here is around 6 p.m. for you back in Vegas, right? And so if you could swing that kind of a setup, then we can totally have a virtual meeting. I've had a number of meetings with folks back home already, so I'm not completely cut off. So the course overview, I'm just looking at the syllabus here. I've sort of talked about the class. The focus of the class is on rhetorical thought, theories about rhetoric. Rhetoric is a thing that we do, right? Like as I mentioned a little bit, our attempts to sway one another, to move one another, to get people from there to here, right? And how we do that using our words, using our ideas, language, arguments, appeals, symbolic appeals, scare tactics, emotional appeals, all that kind of stuff that we use kind of through our brains and our mouths and our bodies, getting other people to do things. That's the domain of rhetoric, right? And in a democracy, that's everything. That's how we function together. And so I feel like things have tipped into some really unstable places lately, and it doesn't look any better on the horizon. So if you're nervous about where we're going, then you're probably paying attention. And so we do need to, I think, really focus on the kinds of lessons and principles and concepts that this class offers. Um, so we're going to start out in the ancient context, as I mentioned, with the sophists and Plato and Aristotle, and we're going to start out with the biggies, and these are like the major players, the major statements on what rhetoric is and how it operates, and what works and what doesn't work, and what ought to work and what ought not to work, and the good and the bad and the up and down of all of it, right? And so I actually frame this class, this massive, like I said, kind of mountain of material through four traditions. I call them models sometimes, I call them paradigms sometimes, or traditions or major statements about what rhetoric is. And they are kind of represented by figures, the people who first kind of wrote about them. So we start off with the sophists. The figure there is Gorgias. Then we move into Plato. Plato's kind of responding to the sophists, and he is another kind of tradition. And then after Plato, his student Aristotle comes along and provides the best overall kind of explication of what rhetoric is, how it works, and what we need to be thinking about. So Aristotle's asterisk, super important. He's often thought of as the father of rhetoric. Well, he's the father maybe of or the grandfather or the ancient forebearer of this way of thinking about what we do when we engage one another. And then the final tradition is Isocratean or Ciceronian. It's really Cicero is the most important figure there, but Isocrates, as we'll see, is someone who actually got these ideas rolling first. Those are the four major figures, the four major models, the four major traditions. And that's how this class is kind of shaped and given some sense of coherence and structure, hopefully. So the first thing you want to do is go watch the video on the four main models. There's notes associated with it. Get good on the models. That's important, right? Because we're going to refer back to the models throughout the whole class. And if you're not clear on the distinctions and sort of what's going on with the models, then you might have some struggles throughout, right? So please do that first thing. Take notes. Watch the video twice. Make sure you're good, all right? And then in terms of like how we proceed, just looking at the course format here, we have 3 units or modules, I guess. And there's 2 that are super important. As I mentioned, the first one is the ancient classical Greek / Roman. I drink tea now in Vietnam. Some lovely peach tea here. I'm usually a coffee guy, but my wife's getting in super late. I need just a tiny little bit of caffeine because I'm fading here. So the first unit is 2 weeks, and that's classical Greek and Roman. That's super important. And then when that wraps up, we're going to spend just 1 week on, think about it, like all of the, like how many thousands of your 1,500 years of human history. And we're mostly going to be focusing on the Renaissance and early modern period. So 1 week on that period. It's important, but it's less important than the next and final unit, which is on late modern and contemporary, which is really focused on the 20th century. And so 2 weeks on that one. So 2 weeks, 1 week, and then 2 weeks. And those are the 3 units for this class. And there's your 5-week semester. So as I mentioned previously, the things are going to come at you quickly, and there's a lot of content. I can't sugarcoat it. There's a lot of content in this class. It's a 400 level class. This is the big, kind of ultimate class in what you should know for rhetoric in terms of theories and principles and concepts. And I assure you, I promise you, this class used to be much heavier, much more involved, much more reading, much more writing, more tests, all of it. This is a streamlined version. It's quite tight, I think, in terms of what we could be reading. So those are the units. The way that the kind of flow of the content happens is the syllabus and the Canvas unit, the modules, the way they kind of visually run down on the Canvas page are meant to correspond pretty closely. So there's headings for what we're doing on the syllabus. Let me jump ahead here. So week 1, we've got orientation, and then we've got rhetoric's origins and as sophistry, and then we've got sophistry, and then we've got Plato. That's all week 1. In Canvas, you'll see those same headings, and you'll see materials that are related to those headings. Now, in the syllabus, it tells you what you should be reading. So the first orientation, you've got the 4 main models of rhetoric. That's a video, as I just mentioned. The next heading is origins and sophistry. There's an Arendt reading, okay? That's available in Canvas. And it's also telling you Herrick chapter 2. So make sure you get your Herrick book, read chapter 2. they're good. Now, Canvas often will have additional supplemental kinds of stuff available for you that might not be listed in the syllabus, but still relevant. For instance, there's these things called notes or um, prompts, I think. Some of the readings have prompts, which are summaries of the important information. And then there's notes, which are just like, outlines of key information that largely correspond to Herrick, but also kind of expand a little bit and also sort of simplify, right? So the point being that as you have your syllabus next to you, you want to kind of line it up with what's going on in Canvas, and you want to make sure that you're kind of working through all of these sort of subheadings for each week and covering the key material. I try to put notes and little reminders and such in Canvas to let you know if it's important or if it's just a kind of optional thing or whatever. But that's the gist of the flow of it. Go to your syllabus, see what we're doing, make sure you're working through the readings. My suggestion would be to do the Herrick readings first because it's the easiest, and then go to the videos because I have these video lectures like I'm doing right now. I've created a whole bunch of videos on my YouTube channel for this class, and so you get little mini lectures. They're about 20 to 30 minutes, and those replace the lectures that you would get in a classroom if we were doing this in person, right? And so instead of like an hour and 15 long version of me talking about these ideas, you're getting like abbreviated versions of them, okay? And so hopefully those are helpful. Students have given me pretty positive feedback about these videos. Those videos have been created in the past, but they're still relevant, right? The content is still relevant. So I might look a little different. This is the freshest video that I'm creating. This is me right now. All the other stuff is a semester ago or a year ago or possibly longer than that. 16 minutes already. So let's see. That's the flow. In terms of assignments, again, streamline, gang. This is it. This is just 2 tests and 2 papers. It used to be much more. I assure you. I used to have my students do discussion groups and quizzes and all kinds of stuff. So the assignment load is smaller, but each assignment therefore is more impactful, right? And so you really got to make sure you're good to go. And so they come in clusters. July 22 is our first test. That's going to cover, obviously, the stuff leading up to it. July 24 is our first paper. I will be posting a paper prompt pretty shortly. And the point of the papers is to help you exercise your kind of analytic abilities using the concepts that we're learning in this class. And so it's very concept driven. And I usually just pair some concepts up with some kind of a text, like a film, something kind of fun, engaging, and ask you to analyze using the concepts that we're learning and talk about how the concepts are playing out and how the text helps us think differently about the concepts, okay? So they're meant to be analytical, maybe a little bit critical, and they're usually pretty provocative and compelling, and they will require some thought and some focus and some organization. So be prepared. But like I said, just 2, and they're around 5 pages each, right? So the tests are a combination of multiple choice and written response. I always go with 25 multiple choice questions worth 2 points each, and then about 5 written response questions, and those are worth 10 points each, right? So a balance there. And I'll let you know that I do build in some kind of bonus points along the way. So no need to ask me for about bonus points assignments. I know everyone at a certain point starts to get really interested in those, but there will be opportunities to make some good bonus points structured into the tests. So then, of course, the next cluster of assignments comes right at the end, August 12 and 13. 12 is the test, 13 is the paper. That's a little bit crammed together, but I need time to grade everything so that I can submit grades by Tuesday the following week. So there you go, gang. I've got a little bit of info on paper grading criteria after that. Just sort of general guidelines on differences in what I'm looking for in the papers or what I'm hoping to get. And I think that might well cover it. I'm just trying to think if I've missed anything. So we've got the flow, we've got the calendar. I've told you about myself and about the class and the schedule, the assignments, and I'll just repeat. Please do not let this class get away from you. 5 weeks. We're covering a couple of thousand years of human history. We are learning some challenging material. I am providing you with what I think is what you need to make good sense of that material. But you need to be very on top of your game organization wise. This is not a kind of class that you could just check in on a Saturday after the weeks, passed you by. You need to be doing this daily. You need to be staying on top of the material. I'm not trying to threaten. I'm not trying to sound scary. I'm just letting you know if you want to come out of this experience with a decent grade, you got to stay on top of the material. And when you start getting lost or you feel like you're struggling or you're losing the grip, reach out, ask for help, don't disappear. If you disappear, if you vanish, if you pull away, if you say, I'll get back to it later, or too tired right now, the class will sneak away on you like a cat, just poof, off it goes. So, like I said, I'm not trying to freak you out. I'm just trying to give you a healthy kind of heads up on what to expect and what it will take to do well in this class. I hope everyone succeeds. I hope everyone finishes the class, gets a good grade or the grade you're looking for. And I do want to let you know, remind you, reiterate that even though I am very far away right now, having the time of my life, it's all about the food right now. It's all about being out in the world and just having a great experience. But I'm still here for you. It's only going to be about 10 days, and then I'm going to be back home. But I will be available. You can email me. You can reach out on Canvas. Those are the main ways, I guess. But I can answer emails, and we can absolutely set up a virtual meeting if you'd like. So hope everyone's doing really well back home in Vegas. I hope you're raring to go and flourish in this class. And I look forward to seeing you online or connecting at some point. So take care, everyone. See you soon.